Herb London joins us now. He's got a smile on his face. He knows what I'm going to say. This political turmoil, it's of the president's own making, isn't it?
To some degree, I think it is of the president's making. It's also true that this becomes a great distraction. You stated it, I think, very effectively. If you want to put a monkey wrench into Republican plans, this is a way to do it. And there is no doubt that what the Democrats are now saying for the 2018 elections, the Republicans have the House, they have the Senate, they have the presidency, and they haven't accomplished anything.
That's very true.
And so this is going to be the argument. And it will be the argument that makes it very difficult for me to see how the Democrats are going to go along with tax reform.
Yeah.
I believe in the tax reform. I think it's necessary. I think economic growth is necessary. But I can't see how it happens with Democratic support.
Do you think Republicans realize that if they don't get this done this year, they're toast? Do they know that?
I think that there are some who do. There are some who don't. I mean, it's very obvious to me that there's an awful lot in the White House that requires some kind of change. I mean, there's no doubt that what you need is a couple of adults who are providing some direction within the White House. And not only that, but I think that the president has got to spend more time with House members and with Senate members saying, look, this is our opportunity. We've got to make this happen. I don't know if that's occurring or not.
Now, we've got a special counsel nominated to look into all things Russian, the Russian connection. Do you think that keeps the Democrats quiet, moves them away from the... No, you don't.
On the contrary, I think that this is adding a little oil to the fire. What they're saying is, look, we've now got a terrific opportunity here. And keep in mind that when you have a special counsel, you do not know where it's going. Ultimately, you may remember, of course, the Scooter Libby case, where Scooter was really not knowledgeable about what happened to Valerie Plame, but it didn't make any difference because once the discussions began, once you went into discovery and you started to ask him some questions and there were inconsistencies, that's what he was found culpable on. The inconsistencies had nothing to do with Valerie Plame. We are in a very dangerous period on this matter.
All right, handicap it for me, please. The odds against or for getting tax reform of any sort done this year.
20%.
That's it?
Oof. I am very, very pessimistic.
Watch out for that market because it's up 5 at the moment.
I hope I'm not losing the market, but I am somewhat concerned. And I'm concerned about the announcement of the special counsel. I'm concerned about what is happening on this score. I'm concerned about what I regard as the internal Medici movement within the White House. A lot of knives being sharpened, a lot of people competing with one another. I think that there is a Republican Party that has to come together. It has not yet happened.
Do you think the White House staff should be swept aside, someone new come in, like a new chief of staff who lays down the law to the president about what he says and what he doesn't say, what he tweets and what he doesn't tweet?
Look, I would recommend you for the job because you just stated it very well. I mean, there's no doubt this is precisely what is needed.
Can you see me in politics?
Okay, well, maybe I ought to take that back.
Corporations should pay their fair share, and 35% is not too high. Herb London.
Oh, it's nonsensical. I mean, what you want to see is economic growth in the country. Elizabeth Warren doesn't understand the nature of economic growth. We've got to reduce corporate tax rates so that we become more competitive as a nation. The only way that's going to happen is to reduce corporate rates. I don't know if it's 10% or 12% or 15%, but it's certainly too high at the moment.
Absolutely.
I think
that was short and to the point.
Yeah.
The mayor of Chicago is a Democrat. His name is Rahm Emanuel. He says Democrats in general come off as disdainful towards the middle class, okay? Now, here's the quote. Here's what he said. We don't talk about and fight for the middle class like we are. We believe we're for them, but they don't. If they don't hear we're for them, then we got a problem. We come off and can come off as a party disdainful of them. Herb London, a bit late, I'd say.
I'd say it's a bit late and also fairly obvious. I mean, the Democratic Party has become the party of the very wealthy, seeking favors in Washington, D.C., and the very poor. And so it's a party that, to some degree, has overlooked the middle class. And this has been true for a considerable period. Not always recognized during the course of campaigns, but very obvious to members of the Democratic Party, as Mr. Emanuel is suggesting.
I think if you do a study of zip codes and match them up with the voting patterns of last November, the wealthiest zip codes vote Democrat.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was not true true 30, 40 years ago. When I first came to America,
No,
the
the
reverse was true.
That's right.
So really, political has been stood on its head.
Well, it's been stood on its head in large part. You saw it during the course of the campaign, where this so-called silent majority, made up mainly of middle-class Americans, said, look, there's no one in Washington who represents us. They don't really care about us anymore. It's always the exception that counts. You've got a president who's worrying about where people urinate. They're not worried about what happens to the middle class. The consequence of that is they were looking for a voice. Donald Trump became that voice. It was the voice of the middle class. You could say that the election was largely a middle-class victory for Donald Trump.
But if Democrats block all things Trump and the Trump growth plan, it will not be Democrats who get the blame. It'll be President Trump and the Republican Party who get the blame.
Absolutely right. There's no question about it.
All right, got it. Herb London, you're all right. Thanks very much. Now.